to.
Gillian Keegan.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. It is a real pleasure to follow my honourable friend for Walsall North. And like my honourable friend, I am also optimistic about securing a Brexit deal and continuing international healthcare arrangements. And indeed, since the 1950s, the UK and its European neighbours have had reciprocal healthcare and social security arrangements. And many of these I have personally made use of, having spent years living and working in European countries. Good reciprocal healthcare arrangements give peace of mind to all of us, and they are important as we continue. Current arrangements give all UK nationals a sense of security in the knowledge that they can access the healthcare they need when they live, study, work or travel across Europe, and vice versa for EU citizens when they're here in the UK. Healthcare cooperation is therefore actively supporting business and tourism, essentially removing a barrier to people's life choices. Arguably, the greatest beneficiaries of these arrangements are our own citizens who live on the continent, many of them enjoying their golden years in the sun. The framework that's put in place by this bill ensures that the Secretary of State has the necessary power to maintain or negotiate arrangements in any Brexit eventuality. One of my constituents recently emphasised the importance of having these arrangements. His grandmother, now over 80, lives in France alone. A few years ago, she had a car accident which left her seriously injured. She required an operation, spent over a month in hospital, and then that was followed up by a time in a convalescent home. All of this care would have cost a small fortune, but luckily for her, she enjoys healthcare under the EHIC S1 route. And access to this is fundamental to her and the other 190,000 pensioners like her, particularly as their health needs may increase over time. And this bill should calm the anxieties of our citizens abroad, and it also saves the taxpayer money. The Nuffield Trusts calculate that if these pensioners had to return home for their treatment, it would cost the NHS between £500 million and £1 billion a year. Similarly, continuing the European health insurance cards is crucial as they safeguard for the 50 million UK nationals who travel throughout the European Economic Area every year. And it's worth mentioning that this is not just about the number of people who carry the cards, but rather the stories behind them. 250,000 medical incidents affecting UK tourists are resolved via the EHIC scheme, including one of my constituents who experienced firsthand the value of these cards when on a family holiday in Germany. Her husband was left seriously injured after being flung from a toboggan, leaving his shoulder quite literally in pieces. To her amazement, and despite the severity of the injuries, her husband was only allowed onto the ambulance once she presented his his card. These sort of accidents are quite common, with many Brits choosing to travel to Europe to ski, which often leaves people, myself included, twice in recent years in need of medical attention. I welcome this bill as we have a long history of reciprocal healthcare arrangements in our country. For the last century, UK and Irish citizens have been able to access healthcare in one another's countries, but for 100 years, a long time before the European Union was established. The UK has reciprocal healthcare arrangements with other parts of the world, including Greenland, the Faroes, the Balkans, Australia, New Zealand, and many of our overseas territories. This bill will allow the Secretary of State to continue to grow this network, and I hope it will eventually lead to global availability of free healthcare for British citizens, removing barriers to people looking to travel, work, study, and live around the world.